So, that's not it. Bernie Sanders, your moment has come and gone, says the Washington Post on the day that he raises $6 million and breaks all sorts of campaign fundraising. A certain announcement this week reminded me that for a brief happy time, quite a few years ago, my wife and I rented an apartment in Washington's grand Kalorama neighborhood. With its high ceilings, wide staircase, and gleaming wood floors, our building evoked its origins in the heady days of a brand new American empire, an emerging global force, an awakening industrial giant. Yet there was a creeping shabbiness to the place that made it affordable for the likes of us. Think of it as a museum of lost grandeur, populated mostly by formerly important people. This guy, I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about, but it's already ridiculous. This small but distinctive slice of the capital's demography finds its lives of power and purpose whittled to the scale of a pension and gravitates to such buildings. Accustomed to congressional suites or the large offices of undersecretaries, the FIPs require big walls to hold all their photographs and younger selves in historic company. They need ample space to display little gifts received as tokens of gratitude from nations that no longer exist. In the overheated entry, I occasionally encountered a brusque little man in his 80s at the mailboxes. He had a shock of white hair and the air of a person who expected to be recognized, if only so that he could be annoyed at the intrusion. Oh, so here we're going to compare Bernie Sanders to a 80-year-old sitting by the mailbox. Or perhaps our third encounter, when I glimpsed more than the back of his head, it hit me. Eugene McCarthy. I murmured, "Hello, Senator," and he grumbled something in return. Not 30 years earlier, this same man had occupied the electrified heart of buzzing, sparking madness in U.S. politics. It was 1968. There was a giant in the White House, Lyndon B. Johnson, who found himself there by fate in an electoral landslide. This giant was weakened by the wound of Vietnam, but no one knew how weak and wounded giants can be dangerous indeed. No one, it seemed, had the guts to test him. And these McCarthy memories came rushing up when Bernie Sanders announced Tuesday that he's running for president again. It seems Sanders is making the same mistake McCarthy made as he returned time and again to the presidential well. 72, 76, 88, 92. Both men were improbable candidates whose willingness to challenge a giant paid off in a transient flash of glory. But Sanders appears no more aware than McCarthy that the moment doesn't last. History will not be hoodwinked by the thin excuses Hillary Clinton supporters make for her disastrous loss in 2016. Only a terrible candidate could have managed to lose to Donald Trump. For all the headings on her resume, Clinton had already demonstrated this weakness by losing to an inexperienced Barack Obama in 2008. So why exactly is Bernie Sanders not going to become president? Sanders filled the anti-Hillary vacuum in 2016, and like the vacuum McCarthy filled in early 1968, this was a fleeting opportunity seized and then gone. For a moment, it took Sanders to the heart of a buzzing, sparking madness. So here we have the ageist argument. Well, he's just that 80-year-old standing by the post office. Folks, this is the Washington Post, and this is an outlet that is viewed as one of the leading news organizations, not just in America, in the world. This is what you're getting from one of the self-acclaimed leading news organizations in the world. Pieces that claim raising $6 million in a day means nothing. Pieces that claim that Bernie Sanders is no different than 80-year-olds standing at a mailbox, well past their time but don't know it. Let me tell you something. If I took a poll on Twitter, I wouldn't do this because it's insensitive, to Bernie Sanders supporters, and I say, what would you prefer? Bernie Sanders as president while on a dialysis machine for the most part? I don't wish that upon him, obviously. Bernie Sanders as president on a dialysis machine, in a wheelchair, sleeping 12 hours a night, only able to be president for 3 years? Or Kamala Harris as president? What would you want? Probably most of you would actually even suggest Bernie Sanders half dead. Bernie Sanders dead, with his spirit in the White House. If they didn't realize if it didn't show you in 2016 that the majority of his voters don't care how old he is, he wasn't some young spring chicken in 2016. Yes, he's older. Yes, he would be the oldest president in the White House if he became president. Henry, I'd take Bernie in a coma. So, like, what is it specifically about his support in 2016 from large amounts of young people, and frankly, a lot of older people also didn't mind his age? Why is it that now he's too old, 3 years later? Why is it that it's not considered, well, he has already said he would have a vice president considerably younger than him? Why is it that it's never mentioned Donald Trump, I think, is 73? Why is it mentioned? Why is it never mentioned in the stories about Joe Biden? I never see in stories about Joe Biden his age. Very rarely. Bernie Sanders announced that Ro Khanna, Nina Turner, Ben from Ben and Jerry, which, hey, Ben, I'm talking to you, Ben, would love to have some sponsorship from Ben and Jerry's for Status Quo, and Carmen Yulin Cruz. Carmen Yulin Cruz will be campaign chairs. To defeat Trump, we must build a team prepared to fight for economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. That's exactly what Nina Turner, Ro Khanna, Carmen Yulin Cruz, and Ben Cohen have been doing their entire lives. I'm excited to announce them as campaign co-chairs. And this is after he named Faiz Shakir, let me see, Faiz Shakir as his campaign manager. Faiz is the first Muslim American to run a presidential campaign. He was national political director for the ACLU. He did work previously for Nancy Pelosi and at Harry Reid's office. So that's interesting. I can't say I love that, but at the same time, from everything I've read and everything I've seen from other progressives who I like their judgment, this guy is a progressive, and this guy is also somebody who not only knows how to elevate grassroots organizing, but also knows how to win elections. Also knows how to actually straddle two lines, getting the grassroots enthused, but also convincing the establishment Bernie is the best choice. So I think Faiz is a good choice. I'll have to look into him more. I hope to interview him. I don't automatically say you're disqualified because you worked for two objectionable politicians. A lot of people who work for politicians are more progressive than the politicians they work for, but you need a job in Washington, and there's only a few progressive politicians. So I'm not going to knock him crazy for working for Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, but when I have more time, I'm going to look more into his backstory. But it's just amazing to me that the Washington Post gets away with this. It's amazing to me that they don't even disclose that their owner basically had it out with Bernie Sanders for 6 months. I'm not even going to bother reading the last Washington Post piece because you get the point. But it's the Washington Post. Politico has started up with their own hit pieces. New York Times wasn't as bad as I thought they were going to be. CNN and MSNBC are basically pushing this same narrative. Well, look at all these other progressives now in. Is Bernie a victim of his own success? Well, you know what? Do you want the OG or do you want the knockoff? You want the original or do you want the one pretending to be the original? This is the grasping at straws. They're grasping at straws at this point. And by the way, as I told Ty in our live stream, who by the way is still sleeping, if the first time Kamala Harris is polling better, the first time that Kamala Harris is polling better than Bernie Sanders, you're going to start hearing the chorus, he's blocking the first possible woman president. He's blocking a black woman. I mean, let's call it what it is. This is what they're going to say. Bernie needs to step aside because he's blocking history.